10.
Are we sure?
No.
No, I don't think we were
Not
either. We'll go with 10. And
Wing
then
it.
Taylor can do his magic and make it 9.
Right.
Well, whichever way you want to go, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah. Special episode again this week, joined by long-term member of the group and friend and supporter, Jack. Hello, Jack.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And welcome aboard. You might not be saying that in 40 minutes. So you've been good enough to come on this afternoon and discuss and share with us your trials and tribulations and things that have gone on.
Yeah, I think it's a subject that you hear a lot about, but sometimes not from when someone's in the middle of it happening. So I think it might be interesting for people to listen to us to discuss that as it's happening, rather than in a year or two's time. Just see what kind of comes out and see what questions that you guys might be able to come up with. And
oh Christ, you don't want to go there. Have you seen this question? No, appreciate you coming on, mate. So this afternoon we're going to discuss the issues of alcohol and drug addiction.
Yeah, and try and not speak about it in a taboo way that I think it still can be, because I'm happy with being as honest as it is. If you guys are happy for me to be you know,
whatever you feel
I don't feel like
with.
there's much point in. That's the idea, really, is being honest about it and go from there. So yeah, it was it's alcohol and substance abuse and what it can do to you and everything. Well, not everything around it, but the things that pop into my head and things that I think maybe other people can resonate with. That's the most important thing, I think, for myself, is doing this. There might be someone listening that's going, flipping heck, you know, that makes some sense, or a family member, and they might have a child or a son or a brother or a daughter, that kind of thing. So yeah,
no, appreciate it, mate. Like you say, I mean, we've had conversations by text and on the walks and bits and pieces, so I get what you've been through and what you've been struggling with and the bits that go around it, but obviously I think, like you say, it's good to share for anybody else that's in that position, because like we've said, there are other people out there that feel like the only ones in that situation. That's the bit where you realise, actually, I'm not on my own, and there's other people struggling with it.
And it's alright to say, I'm taking this or I'm doing this, because you've got to say that and admit it to it before you're going to get, you know, like back and forth. You've got to get, I think there's 2 guys that have introduced themselves on the WhatsApp group just today.
Yeah, the group's
and that's the start of.
Yeah, and so it's like you say, it's part of the steps, isn't it? It's,
just because alcohol and substances are a bit scary. I shouldn't. You've got to talk about it. It makes no difference to, you know, if you're ill of whatever your illness is or whatever it is. You still talk about it the same, I think, anyway. Yeah,
like you say, I think it is just as taboo as talking about mental health, and
massively.
It's ridiculous that we're in this day and age and we're still at that stage. So yeah.
I think if you keep beating the bush when talking, you know, about it, if you keep, you know, hesitating around it, lightening it up a bit, people aren't going to realise the impact and the actual severity of it all and how easily it can happen without you even realising. You know, it could be as simple as starting with, okay, I'm having a bit of a shit day. Oh, a drink will help. Just that, and that you don't realise, but that could just start that downfall, and you think, oh my god.
Yeah.
And then you can hopefully, talking about it properly, can help other people recognise the signs and hopefully either themselves get some help or start pointing their loved ones in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's understanding the stages almost. And again, whatever I say today is only from my own experience. So I'm a big believer that everyone's got their own experiences. You know, if you're drinkers, you've all got your own experiences with it, but you might resonate with some of it. If you're a cocaine user, it doesn't mean that what I say is the same for everyone. So even when because I'd like to make a couple of things that lead you to taking some of these things. It's not a woe, it's me. This is the reason. It's just what I think in my life right now, and so I wanted to kind of make that quite clear as well, because you don't want to come across someone that's just going, oh, I'm drinking because of someone else or because of this. But yeah, we'll go through those stages hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a good place to start then. Do you want to take us as far as you're comfortable with, mate? And you know, this is your show.
Yeah.
So
don't say that.
It takes the pressure off us.
I'll go to makeup. So, my story, briefly and not too, so I'm gabbing on too much. I suppose you grow up as a teenager, going out with your mates drinking, don't you? Not a problem. And that kind of thing. I joined the military when I was 18. I'm 31 now. I joined the military when I was 18. A couple of weeks before that, and this is where I talk about things that you don't maybe realise at the time, but definitely have something to do with your actions later in life, or what you do later in life. And this was a complete surprise to me. My mum sat me down. Her and my dad had split up at the time. They'd been split for 6 months to a year, roughly. She sat me down and she said, "Your dad's not your real dad. He adopted you when you were 3 or whatever it was."
Wow.
And I just went,
What?
"Okay, well, who is then?" And that was my reaction.
Yeah.
I remember, I'll never forget that, and that was as brief as it was. And at the time, I was 17, 18, so you just brush it off, and there was other stuff going on, so you're an angry little 18-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I went to who I thought was, you know, my real dad's house, and I can't even remember the conversation we had. I think around that time, and it's happened throughout the years, my brain's forgotten a lot of stuff, and I think it's some way of, I think a lot of people, it happens to a lot of people, where you get information and you live through it, and then you forget it after a while. It's a way of coping, I think.
You file it away in that
Yeah,
box.
coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So I remember that, and then I went off to the military, and in hindsight, I think the military stopped me from processing it, and really, because you go into a new family then, and drinking, obviously
Part of the culture.
Part of the
it is.
job, isn't it?
Yeah. And it was fun. I was happy as Larry in the army, you know, most of the time. It was only 5 years left, and I remember my last year I spent. I went to the Falklands for the best part of a year over there, and then we came back, and I think we had 2 or 3 months R&R. But because I'd signed off and I had a job rocking and rolling, I didn't have to do a lot of like the courses and that kind of stuff, because I had a document saying he's got a new job. So I was going to the pub, and I was married at the time with a young baby. But again, wasn't going to the pub too much. There was no issue. And then I started finding myself going to the pub earlier, then drinking a bottle of spirit when I got home. And it was then, so I would have been, 25. Then I thought, this could be a bit of an issue, and I think my wife at the time kind of started picking up on stuff. But even then, it wasn't like, you know.
Yeah.
But that's where looking back now, that's where I would kind of pinpoint. So about 25, leaving the military. And then I left, I started my new role in a secure training centre in Rugby. But I was drinking more regularly then. But again, sort of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Loads of people do. And again, another, and I might end up bouncing to and from. Not when I talk about alcohol and stuff, there's loads and loads of people that can do the things that I'm saying were an issue for me. That will never be an issue for those people.
Yeah.
Again, this is just personally. So it's not saying, you know, don't do any of these things. It's just this can happen.
Yeah.
And it's happening to some people. So then I got introduced to cocaine, which is quite a mystery drug to a lot of people. I'll talk about it like it's my normal now, because it is.
Yeah.
But back then I got introduced to it, bloke at the pub, in the toilet, do you know what I mean, at the time. And I still remember my first night using it, and it was like what you see in the films. You go out, you party all night, dancing, loving life, really, you know, and it's weird that I still remember that, but I do. But that was, you know, we're talking 7 years ago now, probably, something like that. And then I guess it slowly just builds from there. So I'm still working, so for a couple of years working, and then you start to skip a couple of days from work or a day from work because of the previous night.
Yeah.
So you might spend 8 or 9 hours drinking and using coke. And obviously drink as a depressant, it'll get you drunk, start slurring. Coke will kind of go the other way and pick you back up, so you kind of level yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's how, and you know, a lot of people listen to like, yeah, that's, you know. But then you get to a point where you stop enjoying it. but you keep doing it,
Yeah.
and that's where one of the big things. I haven't enjoyed an alcoholic drink now, probably for about 2 or 3 years. But I'm drinking more than ever.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, if you're using anything, whatever you're smoking, drinking, whatever it is, or just doing whatever you're doing, you can't stop yourself from doing it, but you hate everything about it. That's when I think you really should be putting your hand up, or at least looking for some sort of help. Or but then the cocaine use was more, and then so I can't go into detail, but we spoke about the one thing that could have had some sort of what's the word? Some sort of reason as to why my drinking may have got. And then a few years ago, so this is what's still going through court now. So obviously no names or anything like that, but I've confirmed that I can talk about it, but there's no real detail. A few years ago, again, drinks, and by this time I'm using cocaine a lot as well, but I'm not. You'd see on the films where people go nuts, and that's not the case. It's just to keep going for 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever. And then, what's it going to be now? 4 years ago? 5? No, less than that. 3 or 4, whatever it is. 3 years ago, let's say. In the pub, go back, have one of my friends come over. It ends up, the reality we're at now is, I'm waiting to go into Crown Court as a victim of sexual assault. 2 charges. Yeah. Been waiting for that now for a long time, but due to getting all the different parties in that you need, and that really kind of set me on a bad place in terms of trying to cope, especially when your head hasn't accepted that, and it took a long time to be not to be okay with it, but to be okay with the information that this has happened. So that's kind of one of the other big parts of my life that definitely had an impact in drinking and again taking coke. I've never used anything else. I smoked a couple of times as a kid, but talking stuff that's took its toll in my life now. So, and it kind of made me go in myself a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and of course you're trying to balance work as well. So that had been going on for a little bit, and it took me a year to go to the police about that and have the interview and stuff. And then and then sort of to the present day really. So I'd managed to get myself in a place where I've just left actually. I've worked in the same place for 5 years, but things just got harder and harder. Sort of my relationship broke down at the start of May this year due to alcohol, and this is the thing, the bad stuff, like I was married, divorce, I'd say 90% that was my fault because of me taking my alcohol and drugs. The last relationship breakdown, you've got to take responsibility as an addict, regardless of if you think of the things that have had effect or whatever. I've self-medicated with that, so I've been through. We've talked about Dynamo a few times. Obviously, Dynamo. Dan. Self-referred myself to them a couple of months ago, and I'm on their waiting list to go in there, which is the biggest thing that's happened to me for a long, long, long time. But you've got to accept that there's one thing that stayed consistent in the bad things that have happened over the years, and it's me. So you've got to look at that and go, okay, and what have I been doing? What's the reason that's made me do that or made me be that person? And it's alcohol and cocaine.
Yeah.
So I've kind of got to a point now where you feel like, and I've been really genuinely suicidal now for a good 6 months easily, but again, not suicidal in the sense of I'm desperate to just end
it all.
It's just that I feel worn out, and I get a lot of our guys in the group can probably. So you're not dramatically just wanting to write. That's it. And you can kind of talk about it because it's not doesn't become a big thing as much anymore. You're just annoyed at yourself and fed up and worn out of the life you have been living. And I got to that point and I just thought, I'm either going to do it, and what I was doing, I was sitting in my car and I was just taking as much cocaine as I could to try and give myself a heart attack because I didn't have the balls to do anything else. So that's what happened quite regularly over the past 6 months or whatever. And the last 6 months are where things really have kind of tailed off in ending the job, finding myself sitting in my car all night, sofa surfing, you know, or self-refer myself to Dynamo. So it's either going to have gone really, really bad.
One extreme to the other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then one of the thoughts that pops in is, who am I to not give life a chance when I'm doing it a disservice by taking alcohol and cocaine? Now sometimes I don't think like that, but then when I do, I've got to really make the most of, got to make hay while the sun shines. If I'm thinking like that, I've got to self-refer, I've got to go to a meeting, I've got to do whatever, go fishing, you know, whatever it is. And that's where, you know, since referring myself to them, meeting them and spending the days with them, amazing charity, what they do, it's weird that the suicidal thoughts have stopped. And that's kind of another realisation that I've had. And I think it certainly is right for me anyway, is that feeling suicidal and going through those thoughts is a lot to do with your environment you're in.
Yeah.
So the only thing that changed, I've still been drinking, I've still been using, but because I know that it is going to come to an end when Dynamo call me and say we've got a space for you, because I know that's going to happen, it's crazy. Overnight.
Wanting to,
Overnight. Which, don't get me wrong, it's still bad that I'm using these substances, but the danger of my kids not having a dad pretty much wiped out the water now.
Yeah.
And that's just because Dynamo have listened and I've gone there.
Yeah.
And they've put me on the list. And it might not be might be 2 years, I don't know, because you know I don't know how long the waiting list is. We all know how busy and how difficult it is to get, you know, real help, and that's what Dynamo are. They're once you're in, you're on board and you get stuck in with it, which I'm so excited about.
Yeah.
But that, and it, you know, that thought of, because you know when I was in that I'm going to end my life stage, nothing could have, that was it. But so all of a sudden, Dynamo don't feel like that now.
Yeah.
Which I think's it's great. It's crazy, but it's good. So it's just a case of waiting for that now. That's all my eggs are in that basket.
Yeah.
All my eggs are in that basket. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at.
Yeah. Unpick that, he says.
Yeah.
So I know you say that all the eggs are in one basket, but it is a positive basket, isn't it? You know, you're not like hinging on something that might happen, or you're thinking that if I do this and do this, that might come off. That's.
It's
I know Kieran and the lads at Dynamo,
Yeah.
and I know how good they are, and I know when I spoke to him and he's spoken to you, if he says he's going to do something to help you, they'll follow through with
Absolutely.
it. So, but going back to the bit that you said about the sort of talking of suicide and once you spoke with us, do you think that's it? Once you've sort of, because we've spoken about it before, you know, you breach the subject and you actually say the words, it's like, oh fuck me, all the weight gone off my shoulders. Is that the feeling that you got from that?
Do you know, at the time, I didn't even realise it. It was a few times after when I'd used, but I wasn't wanting to crack on and do it for another 12 hours, trying to get the heart or thinking I'm going to do something silly in my car, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the only thing that's changed is that I know I will be with Dynamo at some point.
Yeah.
So it has to be, and it makes sense because when you're in, you know, you feel like you're at the bottom, it's because you can't see your life being anywhere else, and you've got no other options. You've exhausted everything, which I pretty much had in my life. Whereas Dynamo have come along, and it is a real second chance at life. Real second chance. So yeah, it was just a few days later thinking, blimey, I don't feel like that anymore.
Yeah. It's interesting because one of the first episodes we spoke about with this sort of suicidal ideology, and I couldn't put those thoughts into your head and say, Jack, go do something to yourself, go and commit suicide or whatever, because that's not how your head works. But at the same time, if you're already thinking it, and I've brought that subject up with you, it's like, right, we can talk about it now. It's not locked away in a cupboard somewhere. We can get it out in the open, and that's what we were talking about weeks ago, wasn't it?
I think it's about you've been very open and honest, and I was sitting there going, fucking hell, I thought I had it bad, but you've been brave enough to talk about it, and you feel very open and honest, and you go, I'm not fucking scared, I'll tell anyone now. And I think that's very brave of you, because there might be someone listening going, fuck, I felt exactly the same.
That's the hope, that's what I'd like.
And they're thinking, shit, right now I can self-refer, or I can go and even talk to someone and go, you know what, if you're making that positive change, fuck it, I'm going to go do something.
What you got to lose?
I mean, at the worst point, how were you processing life? What were you doing on a daily basis? Were you still going to work? Or when it was bad,
so
how bad was it?
So it's worse. As I say, we'll talk the last 6 months. So my day to day will be, and I say will because it's still happening. Let's say a good day, Monday, whatever it will be. Slow wake up because I'm not working at the minute. So, and then the reason for that is because I was working in residential care with young people, and I was very good at it. And I took a lot of pride in being able to protect them, and also, work with great teams of people. But how can I, honestly, and I'd like to be honest, especially when working with people, and especially young people, they've had a lot of lies in their life. I ain't gonna be paid to do that as well. But I was working 2.5 days. We did long hours, so 2.5 days over 7. So I had plenty of time to fill. Now I used that with fishing, and I ended up going on a bender, going on a session. So let's say I've done my 2.5 days at work, go to the pub, spend all night at the pub, or have a lock-in or go to someone's house, and I might get, a gram of Coke while I'm out, and then I'd think, I can't stop now, and that's the problem. I know as soon as I have one, I can go days without having a drink. 2 or 3 days, 3 days, which doesn't sound a lot, but when you've got addiction and it's 2 or 3 days is a pretty big deal. But that's generally, but the reason for that is because that's how long it takes me to properly recover from a 2 or 3 day session or bender as well. So the week would look like finish work, go to the pub, get some Coke, and get through that. And that'll be it. Then I've started the ball rolling. Now I know that I shouldn't be. I know that I'm going to feel horrendous afterwards. But that's what being addicted is. It's every part of your it's every part of your body telling you you've been doing this for long enough. You know how this is going to go. You know you're going to spend hundreds. You know you're just going to chat absolute waffle. It's not like a normal night out at all. So every part of you does that. Yet you still find yourself going to the cash point, withdrawing 300 quid, going to the people's houses, and you can't stop yourself. Can't do it. So I would end up, generally, a session for me will look 24 hours, between 1 and 3 days, and I'll just push and push and push. Sometimes with people, sometimes when I get back to where I'm living at the minute, I'll just sit in a room and just do it on my own for 10 hours, and until it's gone, and that's where it becomes lonely then. So I don't go to the pub to socialise. I'll just go there to start the ball rolling. First drink, that's it, game on. I know what's about to happen. So that's 3 days covered there, and that'll be me. And then it will take me 2 days of sleeping and feeling crap, and going through flipping reels on your phone and watching YouTube and
doing the death scroll.
And that's what life looks like when you're at where I'm at now, because you don't look forward to doing anything else. You become very isolated, and that's where. So I've realised now that the Coke's taken over from the drink, but I need a couple of drinks to start using the other stuff. But even I'll wake up in the mornings, and that's where because I'm aware of it all, and it's kind of a weird feeling. Like if this was my friend, I'd say, like we all do.
What if we do?
Yeah. But I'm aware of it all, and I've been involved in trying to get better for a lot of years now, and I've read up on a lot of things. I've spoken to a lot of people, but I'm still doing it, and that's a weird scenario to be in. That's you know, and family don't understand, which you know, unless you've been there or been wife or whatever to an individual, you know a lot more than most.
Yeah.
But because it gets you, it really does. You know, it does. And you speak to some people and they say you're not. You know, and I semi-believe this. So one sort of way of thinking is that people aren't addicted to a substance. You're addicted to your brain getting away from reality.
Yeah.
And that's what I used to say, and still do to an extent, is that I don't want to drink, I don't want to use, but like with, for example, with the court case stuff, I was getting hallucinations that this individual was sitting at the end of my bed, so I couldn't sleep. And I was trying not to drink at this stage, but it was so, it was on my, the individual was on my shoulder, physically on my shoulder, and I could not, my brain could not settle. I was crying in bed, sober, because of that. How am I going? What do I know that's going to get me out of doing that situation? Pub.
Yeah.
Because I get to put my character on in front of people, dick around, be an arse, but I'll be in the toilet doing coke, and I'll do that because I know when I stop, about 6 hours after stopping, the same memories and the same. So that's one example of why.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people don't see that. Obviously, don't see that.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is important to talk about. If anyone's got a friend or a family member that they see their life going down the pan because of drinking, or a partner, definitely a partner, or they're beginning to use drugs or whatever it is, if there's any people around that person's life that think maybe it's because this happened once, speak to them about it. Because there might be that individual's mind might be missing some information that could really put a halt to all that.
Yeah.
And it's a scary thing for, let's say, a family need to speak to an individual. You might be scared yourself because you might have messed up as a mum or a dad or whatever. But again, in my opinion, when it gets that bad with using alcohol and drugs, when it's not a fun party thing on a weekend anymore, it's generally because something's missing.
Yeah.
And if you're in a position to fill that gap, do it.
Yeah.
Because I believe, and again, I'm not saying family are all to blame, but I know for a fact if I'd have known the truth, because with the adoption thing, what I heard at the time wasn't this isn't your dad. What I heard is every single one of your family have lied to you for 18 years.
Yeah.
And it's got worse as I've got older, strangely. I don't know why. Which is now, you know, I've borrowed money off my family to use. I don't feel bad. And there's two reasons for that. One, because I'm an addict and I'll do anything now to, not anything, but it's getting that way.
Yeah.
But secondly, in my head, process that information as every single one of us has lied to you for 18 years.
This is the least that you owe me.
So, do you know, why should I feel?
Yeah.
And whether that's wrong or right, that's not, you know, it's not nice, it's not, you know, and being an addict doesn't make you a good person or a nice person at all. But, you know, and they say this at Dynamo, the reason for your addiction isn't your fault, but your recovery is down to you.
Yeah.
So it's important to look at those. So yeah, if there's people around an individual, then they got a pretty good idea as to why, you know, their brain might not be very happy with them. Tell them.
Yeah.
Tell them.
Yeah, you're right. And it's the same thing that we've spoken. It's that open and honest conversation, and
Yeah.
you know, you got to put your big boy pants on and have it, because you're in a position where that conversation needs to be had now before anything else happens. And like you say, you know, sometimes it's something's missing, or like you say, you filed something way back in your brain that you've forgotten about, and it's like, oh, for me, that's it. Yeah.
It's all, a lot of it is down to environment and information in terms of something might have happened in your past, but you might not have been told or something like that, and it grinds away at you, and as you get older, and then ping, it's all of a sudden you could find yourself in a position like I'm in now. And again, it's not blaming everyone, but I believe it's an amalgamation of things.
Yeah.
Which which leads to an individual finding themselves in a certain position. You know, a year ago I had on the face of it, I had everything. I had a great job, good, you know, decent circle of mates, although you know still wrong circle as well.
Yeah.
Partner, everything, but things can go very wrong very quickly if it's not picked up quickly enough, and everyone does their part to you know, and it wouldn't be easy, but it's better than your son sitting in a car park trying to give himself a heart attack with 300 quid of cocaine, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I can attest to that, because I mean, one of the first times he came out with us, I think it was back in the spring, back around Holton, early shit, and we had chat, we spoke all around, talked about fishing bits and pieces, and you were telling me about the missus and the little and bits, you know, and it was like, sound it, and I kind of walked away thinking, what the fuck is she doing here? Because she's alright. And then we went on, we'd had text message conversations with our Facebook chats and bits, I'm like, now I get it. And then, but that's exactly it, mate, and that, like you say, you put your face paint on, you put the big bravado on, and you show off, I'm Jack, everything's alright. Oh, and just that little scratch on the surface, it's oh shit. Yeah.
And the thing is, like I said, you just get worn out. You just get worn out with yourself and what you're doing, but you get to a point where you're not strong enough to do it on your own. Yeah. I will, without the help of Dynamo, I wouldn't be able to stop drinking or using cocaine.
Yeah.
Not on my own.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't happen. And the difference with those is you have therapy while you're in there.
Yeah.
So you're not just getting clean, you're having these therapy sessions, really getting into
dissecting exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And that's the biggie.
Yeah,
so
you can go in and you can stay clean for weeks or months. Yeah. You come out, you've not unpicked everything that's caused you to go in the first place, and then back to square one again.
That's where you were.
Yeah.
So getting to the root of the problem, solving that issue, and preventing it from happening again, obviously, is where you need to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd never even heard of Dynamo. I think that's probably a really fortunate thing on my end. But from what I've heard now, from what I've heard in the group before, they're doing amazing work.
Yeah, they're
fair play to them. Just that glimmer of hope that at some point, one day, they're going to call you and say, get your ass down here. That's incredible. For an organisation to have that impact on someone, I think is nothing short of incredible.
Yeah. Things without that self-referral to them, there's a good old chance I wouldn't have been sitting there now doing this. Yeah. And that's just them physically putting me on a list. And I've even been going, you know, for a day or two for the week just to keep, you know.
Yeah, stay in touch with
them. Because it'll keep me clean the night before, you see.
Yeah.
So it's just really like today, kept me clean last night, which is, sounds mad.
More
but that's
than
the truth.
Skin a cat and that.
Yeah, it's, you know.
Yeah.
But fishing used to be my therapy. I've never ever drank or wanted to touch anything while fishing. And I think everyone's got their one thing, haven't they?
Yeah.
Got 4 hours of Call of Duty or whatever it
is. Right. Sad how we do that.
But I've done less and less of that. I could be doing that now at the minute to spend my time, or at least to help, or but I'm not. And that's again, it might sound silly, but I'm not doing that one thing that I used to live for. I spend 3 or 4 nights a week fishing, like a happy place.
Yeah.
You know. And what are we in now? November. I've probably been 4 times this year.
Yeah.
Which it was every week before.
Yeah.
Because that cocaine addiction in me.
The voice in your head is just telling you to pushing you back.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's got to be in your toolbox when you've come out of the Dynamo side of stuff and what you're doing with those guys. That's got to be there, right on the top of the toolbox.
Yeah. And that's the other side of it is I'm 99.9% sure that day I go into Dynamo, I'll be, because it's that environment. And there's no set time, so I've said to myself, they always recommend to do at least 6 months.
Yeah.
I want to do between 6 and 9 months, but because of my experiences in life and things and working with young people before, I want to kind of wrap it all up and then help people, but I need to be clean to do that. Because I could go into work now, but it'd be I'd be a fraud.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that. So that's the kind of light at the end of the tunnel as such as well, because I think you've got to have a goal, even no matter how low you are, and if you're working towards getting yourself, I don't want to say getting better, because it's a better life, but it's getting better in terms of you being happy and living a healthier life, but having a plan of what to do after it.
Yeah.
And I think I'll be able to use a lot of the events and suffering and whatnot to, you know, talk to people that are maybe feeling like they're going down that road, but not talk after doing a course online or doing a degree, whatever it might be.
Yeah, some real world lived
I can
experience.
tell you what's going to happen, or what could happen.
Yeah.
And how it's going to make you feel, and how much money it's going to cost you, and how much debt it's going to put you in.
Yeah.
So that's the plan, but I can't think too much ahead like that, because you've got to just, well, me anyway, think, right, next few hours this is going to happen.
Let's get today out of the way, and then
literally.
Yeah. I think talking to you again now, the fact that you've got that plan and that's what you're thinking of, you can see that change again now, because you weren't thinking like that the last time we spoke. It was just like, oh, and I didn't know what to say to you. I was like, fucking hell. But now there's that little bit of clarity again now, and I can see that that's starting to.
Yeah, and that's all you need, just a little few percent back.
Yeah.
Little bit, and you know, I've put enough energy into trying to destroy my body, and if I put the energy into doing something more positive, and again, you know, hopefully help some of the, because I think addiction and substance misuse ain't going to go anywhere.
No, God no.
But I think again, another point that I wanted to kind of talk about is there's a lot of people who will be in everyone's lives at work or whatever that will be sort of users but still managing, still functioning. Yeah. Because you know, you watch YouTube videos of, you know, men and women at the extreme end of using, for example. But there's a huge percentage of people that are living but not living.
Yeah.
And I think as a culture, we should be really going at those people, and I think it's a big worry, especially with work, because if you're an alcoholic or a druggie or whatever people want to, then you're going to get the sack. Or should you maybe just try to help someone, because they might be really, 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 really good at their job and helping a lot of people no matter what they do. They might just need a couple of months' help, and I think there should be some sort of, you know, I've had like amnesty months or something in companies or something where they'll bring in people or just say, right, have no effect on your job, because the fact is these people exist. Thousands of people will be in this in-between bit where, you know, it might be single dads, might be family, it doesn't matter, but I know for a fact they exist. And I don't really think it should be ignored, and again, it's that taboo thing.
Yeah, I think you're right, because like you say, whenever anything's in the media or anywhere where it's sort of like to get a reaction, it's the extreme end.
Of course it is.
This is the, you know, teeth are falling out, you're living in a shithole. But you're right, because there are a massive percentage of the population function daily, whether it's drink or drugs. You wouldn't know.
No, not a clue.
They're great at what they do, they're brilliant at their job, and like you say, it might just be, well, we need to have a sit down with them and just say, well, we know there's something going on, what can we do about it? Rather than just say, Dizzy P45, mate, off you go. Because it just starts to spiral off again.
That's the person that have harmed themselves when it's gone too far, or worse. Or, so, you know, you've got to give, you just got to, I don't feel embarrassed or scared to say anything about any of it anymore. Because what's the point? But I think that there's a big old percentage of people that just need to have, like Back and Forth, that the guys know that you can whack a message in there or come on a walk or an activity. That's our outlet. And there's this big percentage that nothing really exists. I went to doctors years ago, multiple times, about drinking, because I knew there was something wrong. But you just tick a few boxes on a
fall into the
sheet,
system.
and then are you depressed then? Oh well, take some. I'm depressed. I'm drinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take some antidepressants.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's there's it's just there's nothing there for the kind of in the middle,
The
if you
core,
like.
the core of
core,
society. Yeah.
And I say, do you know what? If you haven't got that, because there's a lot of research that says some people have got this addictive gene in their brain,
Yeah.
some haven't. And I'm not isolating drinking and enjoying yourself and going out, whatever. It's just this is just if you're doing it but not enjoying it and it's having a negative effect on your life.
That's the time to
this is
speak up.
yeah. If it's making you unhappy, or if anything like that, that's when this is why I wanted to speak about it. Not to slate it, just say, look, this is what can happen. It's what physically happens to your body.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow, thank you.
I did have some questions, but I think you've answered them all. That's the quietest we've been.
Everyone's gonna be listening,
Just
thinking,
like that. Okay,
They've just left him in the room on his own.
And we're back.
Turn up.
Good job, it's video recording. Just backed off on that.
No, thank you.
Out.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was honestly very eye-opening for myself that have never used drugs, but probably a recreational drinker on a Friday, Saturday night. I used to go out with my mates, but to experience what you've told us and to be open and honest about it, no bollocks. This is what I'm going through. This is the problems I'm suffering. This is my end goal. If a lot more people that are going through what you're going through was open and honest like yourself, they would have probably done something about it. And for you to go, I've got the bollocks going self-refer, fair fucking play. Because not a lot of people probably would that go, oh, let's just carry on.
I think it's having that confidence in knowing that there's people out there, the groups that can help.
Yeah.
Once you've got that little bit, you think, oh, I can do it now. I can say something. Because otherwise, you come out and go,
Fuck that.
I've got a problem. Everybody goes, oh, fuck off, whatever. And you're just left on your own. And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Now if just realise that there are people out there that can help.
Yeah.
And that's massive.
Yeah, George just understands. And again, it's like I said before, you can become a real bad bit of kit with addiction.
Yeah.
Lying.
Yeah.
Lying for money. Letting people down work-wise, letting kids. I've got kids. Loads of time I've lost with them because I've chosen to go out or not go out but use.
Yeah.
Like I said, relationship breakdowns, putting your partner through. There's, when we leave here today, I'll be on the drive home and I'm thinking, oh, could have said this, could have said. You can talk forever.
We do that every week, mate.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just, I think, for two sides of, if you're a family member or a friend that's got someone that you think listening to this, that rings a bit of a bell.
Yeah.
Just do something. Something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Or if you're an individual where you're thinking, I'm starting to feel like I can't stop on a Friday night, or I'm using this. There are like places like Dynamo and things like that, or even just talking about it.
Yeah.
It's not, talking about the bad stuff. I used to think a great big boulder was going to fall on my head if I was something physically bad was going to happen if I was going to talk about it. And it doesn't.
Yeah.
Nothing. All the bad stuff's happening, so you may as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You're in the
Bad
shit
stuff's
now,
happening
anyway.
anyway.
Just get on with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what you got to lose?
Yeah.
And I suppose that's kind of sort of the best way to round it up, really, for me anyway. There's still options there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think there were.
Yeah.
But there are options.
And that's the trouble, and that's the danger. You get into that. Oh fuck! There's no way out. I'm going to put around I can speak to.
Yeah.
And then it just gets worse because then the walls just start closing in. Then.
But the individual's got to want it.
Yeah.
I was
massively.
never going to stop using for my partner, as bad as it sounds, when you're bad, you don't stop using for your kids either.
Yeah.
Which sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
And it is disgusting. But you've got to understand that it's you.
That's
if you're the
the
user, like me, I've got to sit and hold my hands up in front of whoever I've affected and said, I'll take responsibility for it. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So, and it won't happen. It's not happening straight away.
No.
I cannot do anything really to help it, or I'm unable to do it on my own until I get in with Dynamo.
Yeah.
That's just a fact at the minute.
Yeah.
But I am going with Dynamo at some point,
And
so it's not
that's-
going to be forever.
Yeah, and that's it. That you've made that step. You've put your hand up. You've taken the steps, and you're like, right, this needs to get itself sorted out.
Yeah.
But like you say, I'm willing to do it. I need a little bit of a push along the way.
Yeah.
And that's all it is.
Yeah, that's what, and you know, let's say, you know, bit of luck I get in there at the start of next year.
Yeah.
So this time next year, it should look.
Well, that's what was bringing me on to, because what I
When
was
you get back on the
thinking
podcast,
is
there
we'll
we
get
go.
you back on.
Yeah,
once,
yeah.
once you're in and you sort yourself with Dynamo, then let's get you back in, and then you can catch up with
I'm
where you are.
genuinely excited about, because it's a new life.
Yeah.
It's a second chance that they're giving me. So, and I don't know what I'll think. I don't know what I'll look like. I don't know what I'll. So it'll be like I'm a different person. I imagine.
As long as you don't get a perm like Kieran, we'll be alright.
I'm going in for therapy. Do silly things like that.
Only joking, mate.
I'll come in wearing a cap.
So I wish out there for a perm. It's too.
Yeah, mate, yours is going too far back like mine. Those days are gone.
You've given us a brilliant insight,
Oh,
I think,
yeah.
into the thought processes of someone struggling with addiction. I mean, thankfully, obviously, I don't know what that's like, so you've given me a really valuable insight. And I'm hoping that anyone listening to this can think, oh, I can really relate to that. I need help. Or maybe they'll think, oh, that sounds really familiar to, you know, Uncle Joe or whoever.
Yeah.
What can I do to help him? What can I do to get him on the right track? And I think that's just fantastic, because you've given a voice to people who may not have one.
Yeah.
And that is incredible.
If some good's going to come out of being on is if one or two people are listening, and it might just help them to reach out to whoever it might be or whatever.
Yeah.
That's because people that struggle the most and addicts are really bloody good at helping other people.
Yeah.
I think they're the best.
Yeah.
But we just destroy
Is that
ourselves.
do you think, just another way of masking what you're going through and putting
100%.
your sort of
100%.
face on?
It's almost a
I'm like, mate, I can help
self-therapy.
you out. Yeah.
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 I've just been on a 3-day bender, but I'll take you to the gym.
That's the last place I want to be.
That's what
I
we
thought we
do.
go to the gym sober.
but that's it's crazy.
Yeah.
But then you know, a lot of people that are going down a bad road, I think they've got sometimes the most to give in some circumstances, especially in terms of listening and understanding.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the hope that someone is listening and it might help them a little bit anyway.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do is we'll get the details for Dynamo put into the
Yep.
podcast bio this week.
Take
So if
that.
anybody's
Decent.
listening, get that sorted, and then hopefully people can reach out and get some help from there. But mate,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you for today. It's been
Yeah,
massive.
thank you.
It's been
Pleasure.
really good to have you on.
No dramas, thank you for having me.
And with that, we'll see you
See you next
Thursday.
Thursday.
Hey!